Now let's take a few moments to talk about error handling. We'll cover the most important exceptions that RedisPy raises so you know when to expect them. Connection error occurs when RedisPy can't connect to the Redis server. Offline servers and transient network issues are the most common causes for this exception. Note that RedisPy doesn't raise this at the time you create a client instance, but only later when you attempt to execute a command. Next is data error. You'll see this error if you try to pass input to a RedisPy client that's not one of the supported types for user-supplied data. RedisPy supports the following types for user-supplied data: bytes, string, ints, and floats. Now let's talk about what happens if Redis itself returns an error when you run a command. RedisPy wraps this up in a response error. As an example of when you might see this, you'll get a response error if you try to perform an operation on the wrong type, like anchor on a key holding a string. If you use RedisPy's watch method to watch one or more keys during a transaction, you should expect to see a watch error if any of those keys change while Redis is executing the transaction. In general, you're going to catch this error and retry the transaction if it happens. By the way, if you're doing this, check out the transaction helper. I should note that there are several exceptions that only appear with clustered Redis deployments and the RedisPy cluster library. A discussion of these is beyond the scope of this course, but it's important to know that the Redis cluster connection can retry operations in the face of certain types of errors. See the RedisPy cluster documentation for more details on this. So in this unit, we reviewed the most common RedisPy exceptions and some of their causes. Next, we're going to dive into performance. We'll look at some tips and tricks to help make your application code as efficient as possible when using Redis.